So I think, one of the things that you're probably tired of hearing me talk about, but I'm going to say it anyway, is having a really strong sense of self will help you determine what is next for you. And what is next for you could be like what else you need out of your role, what else you need out of your manager, what else you need out of your experience, or potentially what might literally be next for you. And so I like to ask myself this question. I am a recovering auditor / accountant, so I say this often, but I like to ask myself, am I of my highest and best use? And the ways that I explore to building the answer to that question is to understand, is there still something that I have left to learn? And are there things I would like to learn? And can I do that from where I am? And by asking myself those questions, I can then put a pretty clear picture together of like what else there is from a growth perspective, at least based on my understanding. What else can inform that can be feedback I've received in the past or feedback that I have gotten more recently around opportunities I might have. Of course, I then put that through my own sift and say, okay, do I agree, disagree? Am I interested in those things? Are those things that I think will benefit me? Do I understand how they'll benefit me? So I go through that process. But once I get to a place where I know I want to grow and I know I have more to offer, my very first step, and it should be yours, is I will talk to my manager about that realization. And the primary reason for this is because, pardon my French, but we should not shit where we eat. And if you piss off your manager by just going off and breaking free, you could potentially be burning a bridge that could serve you in the future. So I urge people to take the time to say, hey, this is what I think I need from this next phase of my career. Here's the feedback I've received. Here's how I think I can grow and learn. And I want to explore that with you. And often what I will start with, especially in the earlier parts of my career and the middle part of my career, is I'll ask the question, is that something we both can co-create within the role I have today? AKA, can I grow, shift, evolve, change my scope and my tasks and my opportunities within the scope of this role in order to deliver on that? Hopefully you've been cultivating a fantastic relationship with your manager. You can have a real conversation around that. If you haven't, that's something else for another day, but we should talk about it for sure. But ultimately, that relationship with your manager and being able to tell them what you need, how you want to grow, why you want to grow in that way, and then for you to be able to co-create an answer to that is really powerful. It still may lead to, might have gone into this conversation, it still may lead to, okay, you can't do that from the role that you're in. I need to go and explore something else tangentially, i.e. within my team or within my broader organization and another part of the company or organization. Or we may get to a point where I individually and in alignment or agreement with my boss, we agree that, hey, actually that can't happen in this space for these reasons. But at least you've not burnt a bridge by just going off and making a determination and kind of also probably hurt in some way the rest of your team by just making maybe potentially an uninformed or rash decision. So I always start with, am I in my highest and best use? Is there something I want to learn, a way that I want to grow? Do a bit of research, do a bit of triangulating based on feedback that I received, and I start by having a conversation with my manager. And if I have a mentor and or a coach at the time, I'll probably also speak to those two individuals as well. So now I've got 3 different perspectives on potential next steps. How to have that conversation with my manager if I don't have a great relationship with my manager. How to then potentially source net new opportunities. I can do that with my mentor and with my manager. And then you go from there. But you start to get a sense of, is it time, by constantly knowing where you are, having clarity on how you want to grow, having a perspective on how, if at all, that can happen within your existing role, and having real heart-to-heart, honest and transparent conversations with your manager. You may come to the end of this process, and that process can take a couple of weeks, it could even take a couple of months, but you may come to the end of that process and make the determination, I can learn more in a different role at a different place, and you may or may not have your support, the support of your manager, and that's something to be navigated, and we'll talk about that. But Once you've determined, like, this isn't the place I can do the thing I really want to do, I'm not of my highest and best use for myself or for this organization in this current role with the way that it's scoped, then you get the opportunity to, like, let's say, pull the trigger. That's when you then make a decision and start taking action toward your plan. Start with understanding where you are, develop a perspective, have an open dialogue with your manager, your mentor, and or your coach, and then take the steps that are appropriate. But it starts with feeling like uneasy. It starts with feeling that the work maybe is coming too easily. It starts with identifying that I'm not learning. I don't think I'm driving the impact I could be driving or should be driving, so I need to create a change. It's time for a change. And once you get that clarity, you start working the system, start working with your collaborators or co-conspirators on developing the next step. The only other thing that I'll throw in there is almost like a bonus tip to this is I do think it's important that at all stages and phases of your career that you are constantly taking into account outside information, not in a way that is distracting or that is demotivating, but in a way that helps you stay informed of your market value and of how the industry is changing or evolving, how your functional skill sets are evolving or not, and how they're keeping up with maybe industry standards or expectations. By having that outside information, you're going to be better informed and equipped to understand if something is misaligned. You may not be earning what you could be earning even for all of the impact that you are driving. You may realize that there are other opportunities for growth outside because those are things that are being explored by another brand or another team or what have you. And so constantly getting that information external is also just as important to the internal work that you're going to do as an individual and the internal work you're going to do within your organization and within your immediate community of co-conspirators like your manager, your mentor, your coach. But then there's going to be external factors and external information that can help you determine, okay, maybe it is time to go.